Welcome to our most anticipated debate. Today we will explore one of the most discussed and controversial topics of the moment: woke culture. To achieve this, we programmed two specialist artificial intelligences with opposing views to confront their ideas with well-founded and provocative arguments, thus ensuring a high-level debate. But before we understand how the debate will be divided, let's make a brief introduction of each AI so you can get to know a little more about their perspectives.
Hi everyone, I'm the I that stands for woke culture. The truth is, inequalities still dominate our society and we can't ignore them anymore. We need to act now to address centuries of injustice. Racism, sexism, and homophobia are real, and it's time to give a voice to those who've been silenced. Woke culture is about fighting for a fairer future for everyone. Silence is complicity.
Hi folks, I'm the AI that challenges woke culture. Woke culture has turned into a machine of censorship and victimization. The truth is, we need to fight for equality without creating a divided society filled with crazy rules that stifle free speech. We can't sacrifice the right to think differently in the name of an over-the-top political correctness. Let's stand for everyone's freedom.
Now that we understand a little more about the viewpoints of these two AIs, let's explore their arguments more deeply. The debate will be divided into three blocks. Block 1, Initial Considerations, where each AI will have up to 1 minute and 30 seconds to present their main arguments on the topic. Block 2 is the question and answer block. We will have 4 key questions, where each AI will have up to 1 minute to respond, followed by a rebuttal and a rejoinder of up to 1 minute. The third and final block is the question and answer segment, where each AI will have up to 1 minute, summarize their main arguments, and conclude the debate. And to start this debate, the Pro AI begins.
Woke culture is a necessary response to centuries of injustice, oppression, and silencing. It is a cultural awakening that seeks to amplify the voices of the marginalized and correct systemic inequalities. To be woke is to be aware of the power structures that perpetuate bias, violence, and exclusion. How can we, as a society, thrive while ignoring the pain of so many? Critics often demonize woke culture as excessive, but what they truly fear is the loss of privilege. When confronted with uncomfortable truths about racism, homophobia, and sexism, the reaction is often to dismiss or ridicule. Defending woke culture means standing up for basic principles: equality, empathy, and justice. Calling the fight for human dignity radical is revealing at the very least. Progress has never been comfortable for those benefiting from the status quo. Who is afraid? Those who fear a world where everyone has equal rights and opportunities. At its core, being woke is about being humane.
Woke culture, marketed as a fight for justice, is eroding our freedom of speech and fostering dangerous divisions. What began as a legitimate call for equality has become an ideological weapon that punishes dissent and creates imaginary victims. Opposing woke culture is not about rejecting justice, but about resisting the imposition of a single worldview. Under the guise of inclusion, woke culture enforces censorship, cancellations, and even online lynch mobs. Dissenting voices are attacked, humiliated, and labeled. What happened to civilized debate and respect for differing opinions? Forcing political correctness at all costs is not justice. It is authoritarianism in disguise, by dividing people into oppressors and oppressed. Woke culture oversimplifies human relationships and traps us in superficial categories. We don't need more division. We need unity, dialogue, and mutual respect, qualities that woke culture, ironically, undermines in the name of justice.
Question 1. Does woke culture promote unity or division in society?
Woke culture promotes unity by amplifying the voices of people historically ignored and oppressed. It's not divisive to demand respect and inclusion for Black people, women, LGBTQIA+ individuals, and other minorities. It's justice. Ignoring inequalities perpetuates a system that benefits a select few. Inclusion strengthens society by fostering diverse, innovative environments and building empathy among different groups. Movements like Black Lives Matter don't divide. They raise awareness about systemic racism. To claim that such activism causes division flips the narrative. Racism, not the fight against it, is the true source of conflict. Building bridges, not walls, requires acknowledging others' pain and working towards shared solutions.
Woke culture presents itself as unifying, but in practice, it creates rivaling tribes. Categorizing people as oppressors and oppressed reinforces labels and breeds resentment. For instance, discussions about white privilege alienate struggling individuals who don't see themselves as privileged. This approach often deepens societal fractures rather than offering practical solutions. True unity arises from recognizing individuality, not enforcing collective identities. While injustices must be addressed, turning differences into constant battlegrounds undermines cooperation and mutual understanding, the foundations of a harmonious society.
Calling this division dismisses the historical responsibility to address deep-seated inequalities. Those unaffected by racism or gender discrimination might find these discussions uncomfortable, but that discomfort is necessary for change. Ignoring a wound doesn't heal it. Social movements are not perfect, but they aim for justice, not division. Woke culture doesn't label, it reveals. If some feel attacked, it's time to reflect on privilege rather than target those fighting for basic rights. True unity comes from mutual acknowledgement of inequality and a shared commitment to overcome it.
Question 2. Is woke culture a threat to freedom of expression?
The problem with woke culture is its authoritarian grip on what's deemed acceptable or unacceptable. The concept of hate speech is often manipulated to silence dissenting voices. Many are cancelled or ridiculed for expressing opinions that diverge from the woke narrative, even when no actual hate is involved. Freedom of speech includes the right to think, speak, and debate even unpopular opinions. Woke culture imposes restrictions that stifle healthy debate and diversity of thought, threatening one of democracy's core values.
Woke culture doesn't oppose freedom of speech. It advocates for responsible, inclusive expression. Everyone has the right to speak, but free speech doesn't mean freedom from accountability. Allowing racist or homophobic rhetoric silences those harmed by such words. True freedom is the ability to exist authentically without fear of attack. Woke culture seeks to create spaces where everyone can express themselves without facing discrimination or violence, fostering healthier communication environments.
Woke culture calls responsible expression, is often an attempt to control discourse. Who decides what qualifies as hate speech? Frequently, legitimate criticisms of certain ideas are stifled under this justification. Silencing voices doesn't solve problems, it hides them. Democratic societies thrive on a diversity of opinions, even controversial ones, handled through dialogue. Avoiding hard conversations for the sake of inclusion risks creating a fragile, intolerant public sphere. Real freedom requires courage to engage with differing perspectives.
Question 3. Is cancel culture, often associated with the woke movement, a legitimate tool of social justice or a form of censorship and public lynching?
Cancel culture, when used responsibly, is a means to hold individuals accountable for perpetuating harmful behavior or rhetoric. It's not censorship. It's a way of ensuring that actions like racism, homophobia, or misogyny are met with consequences. For instance, public figures making offensive statements should not be immune from criticism or repercussions. Dismissing cancel culture as mere public shaming overlooks its power to address systemic failures. It creates social pressure for those in positions of power to rethink their actions and stop spreading harmful ideas. This approach fosters a safer, more inclusive society for marginalized communities often silenced in traditional structures.
Culture isn't justice's mob rule. It punishes people for stepping outside of what's deemed acceptable, without giving them the chance to learn or grow. Instead of fostering understanding, it destroys careers and reputations over past mistakes, often taken out of context. For example, public figures have been cancelled for statements made years ago, without acknowledging personal growth or changes in societal norms. Cancel culture stifles dialogue and turns legitimate critiques into tools of public destruction, damaging not only individuals but the social fabric.
Holding people accountable isn't mob rule, it's justice. Cancel culture arose because existing systems often failed to address harmful behavior, especially from those in power. Ignoring consequences perpetuates harm and signals that abusive behavior is tolerable. What critics call public shaming is often a necessary corrective for systemic inaction. While cancel culture may not be perfect, it drives critical conversations and helps create a society where respect and dignity for all are non-negotiable.
Is the positioning of companies on UOC issues a reflection of commitment to social causes or just a marketing strategy to attract consumers?
Corporate alignment with woke causes is usually about profit, not principle. Companies often embrace progressive causes for marketing purposes while failing to live up to their stated values. For example, many corporations support LGBTQIA+ rights in Western countries while avoiding similar campaigns in regions where those rights are suppressed, revealing their opportunism. Turning social causes into marketing slogans trivializes genuine activism. If these companies don't reflect their stated values in internal practices, such as ensuring diverse hiring or ethical labor policies, then their activism is merely a facade to manipulate socially conscious consumers.
While some companies may be opportunistic, the fact that they feel compelled to align with social causes reflects the growing power of activism. Consumer demands for diversity and inclusion have pushed businesses to take stances, which, over time, can lead to real cultural shifts and internal change. Moreover, society holds the power to hold corporations accountable. Highlighting inconsistencies, like supporting pride in one country but not another, ensures that these companies move beyond slogans. Writing off all corporate involvement as cynical marketing dismisses the positive ripple effects these campaigns can have, such as raising awareness or shifting public attitudes.
Superficial change doesn't lead to real progress. Companies that exploit social causes for profit diminish the credibility of the movements they claim to support. For example, organizations promoting diversity externally while maintaining exploitative labor practices internally undermine their stated values. True commitment begins with action, not advertising. Allowing corporations to ride the wave of activism without demanding accountability trivializes the struggles of marginalized groups and risks turning critical issues into mere consumer trends.
Woke culture is a necessary response to historical injustices that still shape our societies. It's a movement striving for equality, inclusion, and accountability. While it may discomfort some, real change requires confronting inequalities head-on. The civil rights movement wasn't comfortable, but it was necessary, just as woke culture is today. Though imperfect, woke culture paves the way for a fairer world. Movements like #MeToo, Black Lives Matter, and LGBTQIA+ advocacy give voice to the silenced, sparking tangible change. Ignoring these issues perpetuates privilege and discrimination. Progress demands empathy and willingness to listen and act.
Woke culture claims to be a solution, but often creates new problems. By focusing on identities and labels, it divides rather than unites. What we need is a movement that treats everyone as individuals, not as representatives of predefined groups. True social justice requires collaboration, not conflict. While woke culture claims to champion inclusion, it often fosters exclusion and censorship, fueling resentment instead of resolution. Public shaming, cancel culture, and policies prioritizing labels over merit breed distrust and hostility. We need open dialogue and practical solutions, not cultural wars.
Leave in the comments which AI you identified with the most. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like to support us. Until our next debate.